Hello, this is the Radical Reviewer taking a look at Strong Female Protagonist Book 1, written by Brennan Lee Mulligan and illustrated by Molly Ostertag, 2014. The key idea of this text is to critique the good and evil mindset so prevalent in mainstream media and in our hero stories specifically. Movies like Hancock or Super or Kick-Ass and TV shows like Misfits try to show the moral ambiguity and ugly or real-world side of what superhero activities might look like. Strong Female Protagonist goes beyond this, though. Many hero stories from X-Men to Dark Knight try to complicate the good versus evil mindset with moral ambiguity, like giving the villain reasonable justification or giving the hero some unsavory traits. However, this text goes far beyond such simple versions of moral ambiguity. Speaking of X-Men, in a way, this text borrows the main themes of X-Men, using superpowers as a metaphor for social ostracizing, prejudice, etc. Another superhero property similar to Strong Female Protagonist would be Steven Universe, where concepts like superpowers, good and evil, and justice are used to explore power and justice as it pertains to the real world, oppression, social norms, the isms, racism, sexism, classism, ableism, etc. A quick aside before diving into it. Given the current political climate here in late 2017 with fascists and anti-fascists having murderous clashes in the streets, it's important to say this, that the text is not, I repeat, not arguing for a liberal, sing-song solution that if we all just talk through our problems, fascists and anti-fascists together at one table, everything will be better. The text is arguing instead simply that the good versus evil mindset is too simplistic. The text is arguing that there are various ways to be a hero, but one must do the work of understanding the complexities of a problem before committing to action. Okay, with that out of the way, let's take a look at the text in depth. Spoilers ahead. Chapter 1. The text starts with protagonist Allison, formerly known as Mega Girl, facing some of the challenges more realistic superhero stories try to address. Leaving home, dealing with property damage, having people use your powers to support their platform. Later, Allison is remembering her last battle with her arch-nemesis and mind-reading supervillain Menace. When she last fought him, he renounced villainy as petty and insufficient. He told Mega Girl, as well as us the reader, the first hints of the main concept of the story. Menace explained that the people with the most useful powers, powers that can truly change the world, are all dead. And that things like mind control and super strength, Menace and Mega Girl's powers respectively, are not world-changing powers, and that their special abilities simply allow them to play out a game of good versus evil. He states, "A girl with the ability to communicate with disease, a boy with the power to generate limitless energy, dead. Everyone who could have saved the world is dead. The truth is this, I'm not powerful enough to be a villain, and you're not smart enough to be a hero. Nobody's scared of us, or we'd have a little closed folder of our own. What are you going to do, Mega Girl? Fling poverty into the sea? Smash all of us into a better tomorrow? Nobody thinks we can change the world, and they're right. It's been lovely playing supervillain with you, Miss Green, but it's time to put away the toys and grow up." This last line, put away the toys and grow up, will come up again later. But for now, Menace is addressing Allison and the reader, saying that the good versus evil mindset is immature and is a false solution to complex real-world problems. Back in the present, we find out Allison is in college and a volunteer firefighter. She's trying to become, in the words of her nemesis, smart enough to be a hero. Chapter 2. We see that Allison has a professor that seems to have it out for her, and feels justified because he doesn't want to be just another person who is just handing her everything because she has super strength. We cut to a previous villain, Cleaver, who is a giant rock-looking creature, like the Thing or Doomsday with blades for hands. His superpower and cancer have disfigured him. He's watching a clip of Allison, aka Mega Girl, on a TV talk show some point shortly after her meeting with Menace. On the talk show, she decides to give up her secret identity and stop being a superhero. The interview begins to devolve when the talk show host begins asking about international affairs and war, and Allison admits that she isn't smart enough to solve geopolitical problems. She concludes the interview stating, "My name is Allison Green, I'm 19 years old, I'm invincible, I'm stronger than any human being that has ever lived, and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. It's time to put away the toys and grow up." Echoing the theme from before. Like Steven in Steven's universe, Allison is someone who reveals the complexity of issues other characters wish to keep in the good versus evil terms. Steven Universe tells the crystal gems to spare the lives of various so-called villains and trying to find a better way. Allison is trying to break herself and others out of the good versus evil mindset and into something better. It is revealed that the school is firing the teacher who doesn't like Allison, which she doesn't want to happen. Again, Allison's powers are being used to support things she doesn't want. Then Cleaver comes to fight Allison. He's mad at her for beating him in the past, but he's most mad at her for denying the good versus evil simplicity and stating it's time to put away the toys and grow up. Like Derek Jensen's analysis of the biblical story of Ham and Noah, if we see society as flawed, naked, if we see how it truly is, we must be cast out. And so here, when Cleaver had his simplistic worldview challenged, he lashed out. There's a moment of catharsis and nostalgia for Allison as she reveals that she loves fighting with Cleaver and says it's the only thing she's been good at, and that fighting is the only thing that makes sense to her. This is quickly brought down, however, as Allison discovers that the professor, who doesn't like her, had his partner killed in collateral damage from a fight involving Allison as Megagirl. That brings Allison back to reality, and she's further brought to reality when she sees a playground that was destroyed during her fight with Cleaver. She tries to put the children's playground back together. However, she can't fix the broken remains, and it's unfit for children. She doesn't know how to fix it, she's destroyed it, and she breaks down. Chapter 3. Allison's therapist asks her about her friend Farrell, a hero with regenerative powers, and there is a flashback to give the character some context. Megagirl was part of a superhero team in the city, and Farrell was a member of a rural superhero group, was a little rougher and more cut loose, but the two groups did successfully work together to fight crime. Back in the present, Allison, aka Megagirl, and her best friend and old nemesis Patrick, aka Menace, go on a road trip to a hospital where Farrell is. During the road trip, there is a side critique of mind control where Patrick admits he can't perform mind control on people but can only read minds. The conclusion is that honestly, people are waiting to be told what to do, that people act rationally according to their desires, and that people are already capable of heinous things without mind control. They get to the hospital and see Farrell. She explains that her rural superhero group, the Wild Ones, fell apart. People got into drugs, jail, etc. She says she started sleeping with anyone and fighting with anyone, and that winning in the good versus evil mindset didn't feel like winning anymore. And just like Cleaver, Farrell hated that Allison went on TV and said put away the toys and grow up, and disavowed the good versus evil mindset. Like Cleaver, Farrell wanted to deny that the good versus evil mindset was unrealistic and too simple for the complex real world. But when she saw that Allison was going to college to learn to make the world a better place, Farrell was inspired to travel the world in an attempt to do the same. Farrell says that throughout the world she saw people hurting. She states, "Everywhere I went, no matter how different the food or language got, I just saw people hurting. People hurting from I didn't even know what. And even out there in the wide world, I couldn't get away from what you'd said. Folks needed help. They've been needing help for a long time, and I'd lied to myself into thinking that killing bad guys was the best way to help. It wasn't the best way. It wasn't even a good way. It was just the easy way, the way I was good at." Allison leaves the hospital and goes back to hang out with Patrick, and Patrick explains why Farrell is in the hospital. She's using her regenerative powers to be a perpetual organ donor. Despite the hate that she gets from homophobic and anti-superpower hate groups, she donates her major organs 10 times a day, and because of her regeneration powers, she does so without anesthesia. Farrell has moved beyond Cleaver and beyond the good versus evil mindset. Opting to be in perpetual surgery is definitely a very heroic and sacrificial use of her powers. The book critiques this further. Allison is obviously troubled by the idea of Farrell, a friend of hers, being in perpetual surgery, foregoing food, sleep, friends, etc., and the act being based in part on Allison's renouncing of the good versus evil mindset. Patrick states, "The truth is, you would be okay with Farrell living in pain forever if you thought it would make a bit of difference, but you know it won't, because Farrell is still trying to save the world and you've moved past that. Superheroes save the world, and supervillains try and rule it or destroy it. There is no word for a superhuman who tries to change it, but that's fundamentally what you and I are seeking to do. That's why you're not okay with it, because Farrell's sacrifice is so great and it won't change anything." Allison goes back to the hospital the next day, but it is discovered that the place is swarming with anti-superhero protesters. With the drama and excitement outside, a debate takes place inside. Another superhero is trying to convince Farrell not to go through with it because she doesn't owe the world anything and these people hate her anyway, so why save them? Allison is trying to convince Farrell not to go through with it also, but for different reasons. Allison states, "Look, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Give a man a heart, and then what? Watch him get obliterated in the next ethnic cleansing, or natural disaster, or just sink into poverty and disappear? If saving the world means preserving it just how it is, then saving the world is not for me. I don't know what a better world will look like. I think it starts with everyone being some kind of hero, and nobody is going to want to be a hero if the benchmark is torturing yourself forever." Farrell explains that she already understands that fact, but that most people do good, most of the time, and if she saves 1,000 lives and those lives go on to do good, then her own life in perpetual agony will be worth it. This is sort of an actor versus stage argument. Allison would prefer to recognize the entire stage, build a better world, and is not concerned with changing this or that actor. But Farrell is dedicated to making the small changes while waiting for Allison and other people to work towards making a big change. Farrell is shown footage of some of the people whose lives she's saving, and the perpetual surgery commences. After leaving Farrell to save the world in her own way, Allison goes back to talk to Cleaver. She apologizes for the type of life he has had and tries to console him about his crimes, and Cleaver quips that she should go back to solving problems with her fists because she's not good at talking through her problems. We expect to read that she softens his hard heart and he becomes a good guy, but surprise, Cleaver says he likes hurting people and doesn't want to stop. And surprise again, Allison admits to liking it too. She states, "I think about how easy it would be. What if I just started showing up to Klan rallies with an I-beam? Knock down the Capitol building, force them to pass universal health care, stuff every Ayn Rand fanatic into a big mason jar and hurl them into the sun. Every day I don't kill 1,000 fucking people, they should throw me a goddamn ticker tape parade." She then explains that she got away with threatening the protesters at Farrell's hospital and is now talking to Cleaver in jail unescorted. But why is that? Cleaver would quickly become an enemy of the state if he'd done that, but Allison is still considered a hero. And Allison concludes, "It wouldn't surprise me if there were only a handful of moments, a handful of decisions that make up the difference between you and me." Both admitting to liking and missing the good versus evil mindset, and also arguing that violence and tragedy can be morally ambiguous, depending on the perspective, Allison has said in Cleaver and the reader that she misses the simplicity and comfort of the good versus evil mindset, and that moral ambiguity and the complexities of real life confuse such a mindset. Chapter 4. This chapter starts with a flashback, taking Allison through various portions of her life, getting a dog, a little sister, meeting a homeless person, playing soccer, learning how to share and justice and teamwork, and learning about her superpowers, learning about supervillains, and finally learning about death in the death of her childhood dog. This culminates in her coming home in the present day to learn that her father has cancer and there's nothing she can do about it. Although Superman kind of popularized this notion of a powerful superhero unable to save the life of someone they truly care for, this realization is very important for the context of this text, because we have seen Allison deny the good versus evil mindset and discover the world is more complicated than that. And we've seen both heroes and villains come to that realization in their own terms. But here is our protagonist, brought to this realization at home in the mortality of her own father. The book ends when Allison sees her little sister wearing a t-shirt of a superhero hate group, and there's a heated debate about what it means to live in the shadow of a superhero, to feel like a bystander in the world, and what it means to hate a group of people, and how the victims of hate groups are usually those least able to fight back. The story concludes with Allison saying that both superhero worshippers and superhero haters are pumping up heroes to be larger than they are, and to label them either categorically good or categorically bad, and by doing so, that gives power to a group of people who, at the end of the day, don't know how to fix the world any better than anyone else. And in the end, their father still has cancer, and there is nothing either of them can do about it. This is the first book, the first 4 chapters of what is currently a 7-chapter series. You can read them at strongfemaleprotagonist.com, but I highly recommend buying the book, or at least donating to the website to support their content. In Conclusion. In the end, this story is about what it means to be good, really good, beyond the good versus evil mindset. What it means to save the world or change the world, what it takes and what that looks like. This text concludes that despite superpowers, we are all just lost and we always have been. As Michael Albert has argued, the future generations will not be biologically superior to us. Either we can do better than the past generations, or we can do the same and do no better. We are all capable of being heroes in this world. There is no superheroes. And even in this text, a world of superheroes, there are no real heroes waiting on the horizon to save us. We must save ourselves. If you're interested in radical theory, looking for a book recommendation or whatever, you can get your radical book reviews here with the Radical Reviewer. Thanks for watching.